Hello everybody, this is Jane Birkinshaw from Love Your Lens. I'm here today to talk you through the shots that you've all submitted for our January photography theme, which was weathered. So hello to all of our new members. What happens here basically is I've looked through all of the images that everybody submitted on Facebook and Instagram, and I've pulled out a number of images to comment on. Sometimes they're my favourite, sometimes they're images where I feel it would be useful to comment on the composition or other elements of the picture so that everyone can learn something from the critique. So please bear in mind that this is my personal opinion. I obviously have certain types of photography that I prefer. I can't help that. That's what makes us all the individual photographers that we are. So this is meant to be a friendly and interesting critique and a process from which people can learn. Doesn't mean you always have to agree with me, my comments or my choices, but hopefully you find it useful. So this is a collage of the images that I've selected to talk about today. Some really great images there, as you can see, in a wide variety. I'd also like to comment on how thrilled I am that so many people submitted images this time. I mean, 75 people submitted images. I mean, obviously some of people have submitted several images, but 75 of you submitted images. And I've never counted up before, but I've got a feeling that's higher than we've ever had. And a lot of new faces as well, which again I'm really trying to encourage and was really pleased to see. And it gives everybody such a wide variety of pictures to look at, and it's nice to see those new names coming forward. So let's go through the images, and this first one is from Thomas Batson-Well, and I love the textures and colours of this. It's quite a consistent colour palette, isn't it? It's all about those sort of orangey, warm browns, and it's got great light on it as well. It's that lovely, I'm guessing, autumn, warm golden hour autumn light. And the only comment I would make is I might have cropped it a little bit off this left-hand side, but again, that could be personal taste. So thanks for that submission, Thomas. Now this image by Joy Page, one of our newer members or newer contributors anyway. I really love the subject matter, fascinating, definitely weathered rocks and structures at the seaside. The only comment, and this really is nitpicking, that I was going to make here, is that you see these rocks in the background here. If you can get things to either be well below the horizon line or well above it, but not sitting right on it, it will make a more pleasing image. Now, obviously, these are a secondary kind of subject, so it's not as important, but it's just a thing worth knowing. It's called separation when you get things either standing right out from above that horizon or underneath it. And it's not just horizons, anything that's close to an edge. We've obviously got a bit of overexposure going on in the clouds here as well, but I can see that it's a very bright sunny day. But interesting subject, and thanks for the submission, Joy. Okay, then we have this great shot by Lindsay Rustage. Great character, weathered, a little worse for wear, I think. This is wine, I think, that he's drinking here, and sort of dozing off the ill effects of that. But there's quite a lot going on in this image. I love his coat, what's written on it, and a really good sort of bit of street photography there, and nicely done with the sort of knocked back colour treatment as well, Lindsay. Then we've got a similarly weathered person by Karen Herman Wright. We had a bit of a chuckle about this when I asked her where she found him, and she said he's actually her other half. What a great character, what a great face, and all those different textures. So, what a fantastic subject. For my personal taste, this is over edited, over processed, but I know Karen is, just having a really play around with what she can do with those effects on this shot. And, those eyes, really captivate. You can't look away from them. You're trying to read what he's thinking. Really, really great shot, Karen. And then another weathered person, and this is Eric Payton, not the man in the picture, but the photographer. and another really great capture of a fantastic weathered character. Really like the composition of this. The way that Eric's done this is it allows the shot to tell a bit of a story as well. You get some context as to where this guy is. Looks like he's at some kind of motor racing event or maybe a farming event. You can't really tell. This looks like a car to me. These guys look like they'd be involved in watching or driving or something. But you know, the sort of sadness, the expression you've captured there, Eric, really nice. And again, it works so well in black and white. And I know you could point out that it's overexposed here, but the subject isn't overexposed. And you know, most of you will know that in camera it's actually very tricky in certain lighting conditions to get the exposure correct across the whole of the frame. And what matters is that you get the subject correctly exposed. So fantastic job there, Eric. Really enjoyed seeing that shot. Then we've got Eric's big buddy David, and this is a shot of the mill at Dunham Massey, the watermill building. Now, I like this shot. There's a lot of texture going on, a lot of interest, and it's a very weathered building. Again, to my taste, feels over-sharpened, a bit over-processed. But then David had also submitted another shot, which was this one. And again, it might be my personal taste, but I really prefer this one. Very sort of a closer section, very weathered window. You see the detail more, and you know more where to look than perhaps on this shot here. Okay, so great spot there, David. I love windows and doors and gates and things like that. They're great photographic subjects, aren't they? Yep, another weathered wall, fantastic shot by Ray Fung. This is one of the, the great ones submitted this time. It's up there amongst my real favourites. It's obvious what works about this, the huge contrast between the two sort of halves of the picture, the diagonal split, the diagonal composition, the colours, the textures, the repetition of patterns. So for those of you looking for some tips on composition, it's all there. Whoops, a daisy, this often happens. Sorry, it's this particular program that I'm using. All those tips on composition are there. He's done something called filling the frame, where you don't get the edges of this wall, you don't get anything else. It just really focuses you in on the subject matter, and then it invites you to explore it a bit further. You start wondering what these hooks are for, what are these ropes about, going down in a diagonal line as well. So fantastic, really interesting, well composed shot. Then we've got this one by Carol Bernstein. Now, I really like what you're trying to do here, Carol. The leading line, the weathered line in the road. I feel like it's lacking punch, lacking contrast a little. It's all very muted colours in black and white here. And also, I think it might have been stronger if you'd have included a little more context at the top here. Maybe use the rule of thirds a little bit, had a third of that area, so we could see where the line was leading to. But unusual and a good sort of idea for a shot. Then this is great. Louise Harrison Holland, what a fab bridge. I want to go there. I want to know where it is. I want to walk over it. I want to photograph it. And in the same vein as Leading Lines, she's got us leading over the bridge, and this fantastic colour, texture in the mountain at the background, the hillside. So really, really nice shot there, Louise. Great capture, lovely spot. As in literally a physical spot, a place that we'd all like to visit, I think. Kids would love running over that, wouldn't they? Another Leading Lines, this one by one of our favourite contributors, Alan Ewart. Really great, such strong composition here. That line is so strong, the way that the sand is almost untouched. The tide's only just gone out, a few human footprints here. Nicely composed, great colours, great textures, and what we've come to expect from Alan. Like the frame around it. Sometimes I do this, sometimes I don't. I think they can be overused, but I think in this instance it works nicely. Then another leading lines shot here by Vicky. Like this, I like the angle that you've chosen, Vicky. Sort of all those leading lines and triangles, again, strong compositional elements, so diagonals, triangles, this simplicity, an isolation of the subject. I don't know what it is. I'm a bit intrigued. Is it some kind of ladder and platform up there? Yeah, really like this. This element's going on here, shooting up against strong light like that can give you this, and I believe it's chromatic aberration. And I also believe, I think I'm correct in saying that very expensive lenses, you don't tend to get this as much, but your kind of normal consumer lenses, they can be prone to getting this effect. But does it really bother us? No. Do we want to spend thousands of pounds on lenses to not have it? Possibly not. Okay, then we've got this shot again by Vicky. Really like this. Talking through what makes it work, the bright spots of colour, the textures within it, the composition. It just works, doesn't it? There's not much more needs to be said about that. The close crop of it, where Vicky's decided to focus on the hinge as well. So another strong submission there. Then another great shot by Alan. There's something about this sheep. I really like it. He looks so sort of noble, wise, old, world weary. I mean, maybe that's just my interpretation of it. I like the way he's just centre frame. We've got enough context to know where he is and the sort of the weather and the elements that he stood in. She, he, I'm not very good. It's probably a she actually, isn't it? I also like the way that this is almost square, the back and the tail, and it's kind of right, echoed by the straight line along the edge of the picture. So yeah, nicely composed. We can all take pictures of sheep, but Alan's really cracked it here. Then we get a number of shots that are sort of found weathered things, if you like, things that are weathered and they're just sitting there, and you've spotted them and made them into a great image. So first of all, another shot by Thomas Batsenwell. This is really intriguing, isn't it? Fancy coming across this and this strong orange. The colour palette works really well in this. I like the way that you've isolated it in your crop. And what a great spot, and why is that image there? If you know a bit more about it, then Alan, please tell us. Not Alan, sorry, Thomas. This is why I was thinking about Alan. This shot here, really like it. I love the light on it. I love the textures on this sculpture, and the sky behind is moody. You've got the grasses, the sand, everything. The colour palette is all complementary to each other, and it didn't need to be composed in any weird and wacky way. This is the central subject and it works. It makes you focus in on it, but you've got some context as well. And then we've had quite a few boats submitted, and you can see why. They're amazing subjects, aren't they, with their splashes of colour, the structures within them, the textures, the scenery around them. So yeah, I really like this one by Vicky. Again, the sort of the circular compression in the sand, depression in the sand here, where the rudder's been, makes you want to know a bit more about it. And I like the low down angle, Vicky. And then into another boat, this one by Jude Parkin, again a new, relatively new contributor. I think what's great about this shot is the light, the way the light is falling on this wreck, and then this foreground interest of this rock. The colours all work together. It's a beautiful palette. It's actually that kind of turquoisey terracotta palette that's very popular in a lot of films. If you spot this, you'll start to see it in every film that you watch. It almost starts to become a bit kind of, oh gosh, it's that colour palette again. And then if we move on to this building here by Dominic Pope, this is a great one, this very weathered graffitied building. And again, look at the colour palette. It's that turquoise, sort of orangey, terracotta-y colour palette again. When I first saw this, I thought that was people down there, and I thought, wow, the scale of that, and then I realised it isn't. Need to get my eyes tested. Should have gone to Specsavers. But again, a great find. It didn't need, or is that? Hang on a minute. Is that a person and that's a boat? I think It might be a question of scale and perspective, actually. You'll have to enlighten me, Dominic. I think I'm having a bit of a moment here. But anyway, yes, really like that as a subject. Then we've got this one by Eileen Tickle, another new contributor, which is fantastic. What an interesting piece of wood here. Looks like a number of different animals to all of us, I'm sure. It looks like a bull's head to me, sort of like a young bull with all that curly sort of hair that they have on their forehead. The only comment I made to Eileen when she posted this is to crop it maybe. Crop out this area here because it's irrelevant. Leave a little bit of it, but let this be your subject and not distracted by this area here. Okay, so thanks for that submission, Eileen. Then another boat, and it's Dominic again, and it's that same colour palette again, and it's possibly a little bit to do with the processing that he's using, but also it's just what was there. And again, I like the dramatic angle, so that's a good one, Dominic. And then this one by Julia Ketchup Nicholson. I really like this as a sort of found weathered shot, and again the focus on this hinge. I just feel like it could perhaps do with a little bit of editing to punch it. Not too strong, not too far, but just looks a little bit flat. Okay, thanks, Julia. And then we've got this shot by Thomas Bats and Wells again, another found subject that he's seen on his travels, on his walks around, and look at this bench, it's awesome. They've tried to support it with this rock here. It's all the textures, the weathered textures around it as well. It's just full of interest, and a great subject to find. And again, a great colour palette. There's nothing kind of in there that really draws your attention, apart from this arrow, which you question and go, what's that for? You know, what's that all about? Doesn't distract you, it interests you and grabs your attention. So thank you very much for that. And then we come to my favourite shot out of all the ones that you've submitted. This did get a lot of likes. Obviously, there's been so many great ones this time, but this one just did it for me. So much interest in this shot. Another great find as you've been walking around, Lisa Rusco. Nice to see the snow in it as well, but all of these signs on this fence, so weathered, then the weathered carriage, looks like an old carriage, and then this, I think this really makes this shot. There's somehow the light in the background, the light on this old truck here, lifting the shot, and yet the colour palette all hangs together. And it's just an intriguing shot, very pleasing on the eye, and a great capture. So I hope that's been interesting for all of you, and I've announced the new theme today for February, which is love, which you can interpret in as many different ways as you want to. So I'm going to leave that up to you and look forward to seeing how you do go about capturing shots for that one. If you've signed up for the free monthly email, that will be coming out to you in a little while, certainly definitely today. And if you haven't, then you can sign up for it by clicking on the announcement at the top of the Love Your Lens Facebook group, and you'll find it there. So slightly longer recording than usual, but I'm really trying to give you some good value and some good tips. So I hope you've borne with me throughout all of this, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Take care.